What's up, everybody? It's the Golf on CBS YouTube show. Shane Bacon with Patrick McDonald. We got Matt McCarty defending this week in Utah. He joins the show after some back and forth in terms of the browser setup he had going. Matt, first things first, you just got back from Japan, right? I mean, you played the event over there. And then how long did you spend in Japan just kind of hanging around?
Yeah, spent all week there until Saturday. Went to Kyoto for a few days. You know, my girlfriend was there, so we were hanging out. My mom was there too, so it was a nice little, family trip. Spent some time, and first time over there. So I kind of, obviously playing the event was awesome, but just to kind of experience the culture and hang out was, that's a cool thing about what we do is get to go to all these cool places. And I think especially this time of the year after, playing a full season, it's nice to have a little bit of a vacation as well and, take a break and kind of, experience those cool things that we get to do because of golf. So, it was a lot of fun and, set the clubs down for a little bit, which is tough, but, I'm here, got to Utah yesterday and, here earlier than I normally am. So we'll have plenty of time to kind of get back on schedule and get it going again.
Are you a big sushi guy, big foodie, or what was the coolest part of Japan?
Yeah, I mean, the food was the best part, but also just the culture of the people over there and just how nice and respectful everybody is, how quiet it is and so busy, but it's so quiet at the same time. And just the only people that you really hear are the other loud Americans walking around. So, very, very cool experience. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was going to ask some highlights of the non-golf side of it because I do want to get into the final round on the golf side as well because you almost did something pretty incredible there. But highlights in terms of maybe a dinner that stood out, something you saw that stood out. Did you get noticed at all away from the golf course at any point? Anybody come up to you and ask you an autograph or a selfie?
No, I think if I wouldn't have shoved that drive on 18, I might have had a better chance of getting recognized. But no, nothing. We're not quite there yet. But no, it was great. We have a good one of my good buddies I grew up with. His dad's Japanese, and they moved over there, a few years ago. So had a good local, family friend in Tokyo, and they took us to a couple, traditional Japanese restaurants and a couple of his local, watering holes he goes to. It was pretty awesome. Got to meet some really cool people, and it was a lot of fun and truly kind of a week I won't forget. So it was awesome.
All right, let's talk about that final round. We got the easy pleasantries out of the way. When did you start thinking about 59 on that? I guess it was the first 9 there, but the back 9 for you.
Yeah, so I started on 10. Just 4 under on my first 9, the back, and then birdied 1, 2, 3. I hit it to 8, 9 feet for eagle on 4. And kind of thinking, if you make that, you got a pretty good chance. The front's pretty gettable out there. Missed that. And I'm well, pretty much kind of got a birdie out to get in. And then, 4 holes later, you never really think you're going to make 8 in a row. But yeah, walking off 6, I told Doss, my caddy, I was all right, let's just get 2 more. And we did, but we also needed a par in there somewhere. So, it was, kind of a late burn into the round and especially, the 59, but you always know where you're at on a day like that. So it was there kind of the whole time. But, I was kind of I hit it close on all those holes. So I kind of had short putts. So I kept thinking about, it the whole time. And definitely a very kind of, crazy feeling being kind of one of the first groups off on Sunday and having that many nerves coming down the stretch when you're, I don't know what I was in 10th or 14th. And, definitely feels like you're in contention. So it was a cool feeling. And kind of, proud of how I hit a lot of shots coming down the stretch, except for that one on 9T, but it was a lot of fun.
8 in a row is wild. I think I'm more impressed with 10 of 11. It's just so stupid. It's the fact that you're just absolutely out of your mind. Have you had a heater like that in your career at any point in your life?
I mean, I shot 59 at the Wyoming State Open.
That's right.
Like right in the summer, but that course was a lot shorter and easier than, this place was. But no, I think the most I've ever had before was like, I know I've had 5, maybe 6 once or twice, but no, it's kind of crazy the way, like, I missed like a short, like a 4-footer on 15, hold out from the bunker on 16, and then lipped out like my bunker shot on 18. So it like very easily could have been, what is that, like 13 in a row almost, kind of, with holding 2 bunker shots, obviously. But yeah, it was pretty wild.
I am curious. We have 3 left-handers right here for golf, which I feel is like as rare as it gets, pretty much. Are you a natural lefty? Do you do everything left-handed?
No, I do everything right-handed, just like swing a club and like a baseball bat, and never played hockey, but if I played hockey, it would be lefty as well. But no, do everything right-handed. I'd have really no reason of why that is. Probably I grew up, like, my dad always played. Shane knows my dad pretty well. But like, I think I just kind of went to the range with him really young and probably tried to like mirror what he was doing. I think that's like the Phil Mickelson story too. So I don't know.
Okay, interesting.
I want to ask about the drive on the last, because you hit it out of bounds, and if you make par, you shoot 59. Now, I will say this, because you mentioned this to me in a text. You were trying to shoot 58, which I really respect and appreciate, and you said it was a drive you hadn't loved all week. Is that right?
Well, I hit driver there all week. I actually liked the tee shot. Like, I felt like I would miss that right more though, like kind of pull it through in the rough, and like you can make par from there pretty easily. But yeah, I don't like, I told Doss after the round too, I'm like, I'm glad, I think part of him probably wanted to stay at 3-wood and just kind of, get it in the house. But I'm glad that like I kind of did what I, kept with my strategy that whole week. And that graphic is crazy, because it was like,
wow,
it was like
that looks
2
like you hit
yards
it out of Japan.
It's rude.
It was like a yard left of like that bunker line. It like, my provisional, it was like 3 yards left of that one. I think it just like clipped the tree. I mean, it was definitely like cutting a little bit, but I thought like, I would get, and that was the other thing with drivers, like if I push it a little, I have a chance of getting it around that corner. But no, it definitely wasn't like high yacht, like, the whole way. I thought it was good. I was playing with Griot. He said he thinks it's okay. Like, I don't need to hit provisional. I was like, I'm going to hit one. I don't want to have to like walk back right now. But yeah, just kind of, it was one of those like 50-50 balls, and we got up there, and, the stuff out there is really thick, and never found it. So is what it is. But I honestly did feel like at that point, like I had hit every wedge basically that day. It felt like inside 5 feet. If I hit that fairway, I think I had a pretty good shot at, if I played my provisional, one swing away from a 58. So, I mean, you can go back and forth about that decision as much as you want, but I felt like how I was playing, it wasn't like, it was also, I was probably in like 8th or 9th at that point. It's like, are we really trying to protect, like a 10th or 11th place finish? Obviously 59, something really cool.
Protect the points, Matt. Come on, yeah. You know the rule here. Got to protect those points. How close did you hit the wedge after the provisional, since you were hitting your wedges so close?
That was the thing. It never left. Like, it never left the pin. It was like 104, like kind of like a comfortable, smooth, like little 54 for me, and never left it. And I thought I made that thing too. It was like 8 feet right behind it. So it was like, even after the OB ball, there was still like a little bit of hope in the air there for me. So that was tough. And it did look like it had some spin coming back. It only had about like 3 feet. I needed about 12 on it, but yeah, it was good.
I mean, that would have been a cooler way to shoot 59 than,
good point,
say 58, right?
Oh yeah, I mean that would have been sick 59.
Yeah, I mean you're just a showman, really, at the end of the day. What is that feeling like compared to contention? Right? Do you still have like similar nerves, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, it honestly felt pretty much the same as trying to win a golf tournament, to be honest, especially 7, 8, and 9. All 3 of those. I mean, it's, that's something that hasn't been done, I think, only like 14 or 15 times, in the game of golf. So you'd be joining a, very, very small group of elite players. So it'd be, and then obviously too, having that, having one hole to go and knowing that 58 with Furyks out there too, something very cool too. So, but yeah, gave it our best effort, and happens.
I wonder if there was a camera on you. Was there a camera on you when you hit that shot into 9?
So that was the thing, I guess, because I saw the camera guys running like when we were on like 8 fairway, but I don't think I had like a single shot covered. And also, I don't think the first shot of me hitting it in the stuff left was even like shown. Because I think like the announcers were confused, and I was, I got a lot of texts from people that were like, how do you just like not show that, and whatever. But yeah, I think there was a little confusion on the broadcast maybe of that, if that was my first drive or second drive or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the same point, I teed off 10 like second group in the morning.
That's
I don't
right.
think that they were really thinking that I was going to be doing much.
On Matt's going to go out there and make 8 straight birdies on the back. It is funny. I mean, Patrick, you bring up a good point about the potential for a hole out or something silly. We had Davis Chatfield on KFT a few weeks ago, and he has like 35 feet on the last at this new golf course to shoot 59. And Nitty's just setting up. He's like, this is a really hard putt even to get to the hole. And he just bangs it in the back, right? And we go to commercial and come back out of commercial. We're like, is that the longest putt ever for 59? We were trying to think about, I think JT made a pretty long one in Hawaii that time when he did it at the Sony. Duvall's was like 15 feet. I mean, most of the time you're not making some bomb to do it. But holing out to do it would have easily been the coolest kind of exclamation mark on the round. So, Maddie, at least you gave that a run.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it would have been a small victory afterwards, but yeah. No, I mean, would have had that for sure. So would have been cool. But it never left the pin. I was like, even in the air, I was like, oh, we still got this.
All right, let's talk about this week a little bit. Defending champ, obviously, you went on like a heater of all heaters, really, last summer going into the fall. How satisfying was it for you to bring that confidence in that game from the Korn Ferry Tour and those 3 wins immediately onto the PGA Tour?
Yeah, I mean, very satisfying, and I think that was kind of the biggest thing too, of like having it be my second start. And I played really well kind of early in the week at Sanderson, which was my first start the week before, and kind of struggled that weekend, but felt like I learned a lot just from like having that first tour event nerves and kind of everything that comes along with it. And went from like featured group at Sanderson coming off the Korn Ferry to last tee time Thursday at Black Desert last year, and came out, shot 9 under the first round, and was in it all week and just kind of kept that momentum rolling that I had from Korn Ferry. But I mean, I think there were like kind of a lot of factors of how I was playing, but then also first time out this course at Black Desert in Utah for everybody, and kind of a very unique golf course and environment. Desert golf here, obviously the lava kind of replaces like the more mundane desert we have in Scottsdale in Arizona, but the ball goes far, and it was a little hotter, it was a little earlier in October, and just felt really comfortable with kind of the environment. And it's tough to kind of get some of your lines off the tee out here, and I felt comfortable with that growing up in desert golf and everything. So I felt like I kind of had an advantage over most of the guys. And I think that was something this first year on tour is like, when you got guys that have been playing these courses for 10 or 15 years and it's your first time seeing it, it's kind of like a tough part about being a rookie on tour that I think, a lot of people don't talk about enough as well. Like, it's just a huge adjustment. And I think anytime that you can kind of be on a level playing field going into a week, with people, it's definitely helpful. And I think at that point too, I looked at like, the field, the week before last year, and I think I was like the 3rd or 4th best world ranking in the field as like my second PGA Tour event. But it's like, why not? Why shouldn't we, have a week and be in it all week? So just kind of kept telling myself that and put myself in position. And, obviously, Sunday was able kind of to handle everything that came with it and pull through. So it was awesome.
Where did the confidence in terms of the wins at the end of the season on KFT, end of the win on the PGA Tour, where did that confidence come from? Was there a certain week or tournament maybe earlier in the year, or a moment you had where you started to really believe in your ability to be one of the better players on the Korn Ferry Tour?
Yeah, I mean, I think Denver was the biggest week for me of 3-shot lead going in the last round, kind of hit the ball okay, but putted really poorly and was just, felt that kind of nerves and tension and just didn't put a lot of good confident strokes on a lot of putts. And, was pretty tight and nervous that whole day. But, just kind of frustrated from that day and how that week ended, and then to roll over into Springfield, Missouri the next week and put myself back in contention and get it done. And then, kind of from there, just keep rolling the next, 2.5, 3 months, whatever it was. But yeah, I think I've kind of learned, I play some of my best golf after, some poor rounds to finish tournaments and being pissed off a little bit. I think that was honestly a little bit of Japan, last week too, of I honestly felt like I was playing really good, finished the first round, very poorly, played great the second round, finished the third round very poorly, and then, wanted to finish strong and kind of same after, coming off Napa too. Felt like I played great for 3 days and just didn't have a good day that fourth day. And, but yeah, it's just, kind of, struggling and, playing some poor rounds to finish some events kind of ignites that, fire under your ass a little bit. And I think that, was kind of that stepping stone for me last year, but I think that's what it's been for me a little bit too.
You touched on the golf courses there. What do you think the biggest adjustment or learning curve from the Korn Ferry Tour to the PGA Tour this first year has been for you?
I mean, just on a overall level, the courses are just tougher and more demanding, especially off the tee, around the greens, even on the greens, there's just a little bit more going on. It's not quite as much of a birdie fest. I told Shane, early this year, it's you kind of got to learn to be okay with making pars again and just making a few good pars and just keeping a round going and shooting 2 or 3 under out here is, how you have a good week, as opposed to Korn Ferry. If you're not shooting 6 or 7 every day, it's kind of tough to do. So, but yeah, it's just, a little bit more demanding. And then obviously the competition and just everybody that you're playing against is, that much better. And there's just less margin for error there as well. But yeah.
Matt, you've played, it seems like you play well. I mean, obviously I know you did well, obviously last year on Korn Ferry, and you got to go low, but you're talking about parring, par being a good score. I mean, you play well this past year. You played well at Sawgrass. Would you finish it at the Players? Was it 20th or something?
Yeah.
Something like that. And then obviously you played really well at Augusta. Why do those types of courses, do you feel like fit your game maybe more than some of the ones and the experiences where you've won, where you've had to shoot 25, 26 under?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of accuracy off the tee, and, putting's been a big strength of mine around the greens, chipping and everything, and just kind of, feeling my game out and just getting the ball in the hole, even when you don't have your best stuff, sometimes is good. And sometimes that's easier to do on a harder course when, the value of par is high, and, you don't have to shoot, 6, 7, 8 under every day, and you can kind of just get it around. But I think just consistency, and I've always kind of been that way. I just, embracing the challenge of playing a harder golf course and, everything that comes with that, and just trying to, step your game up a little bit. I think it just kind of, helps focus you a little bit. I mean, I think Augusta was, kind of my first big experience with that, of you really just are trying to hit such small targets that it really narrows your focus. And I think that's, helpful to do on any golf course, especially, but it's easier to do when it's really tough. And, there's a lot of places that you can't be around the hole. So.
What was that Saturday like for you? Because I think you were off in the third to last group, first Masters. I think Scheffler was ahead of you, Rory behind you. Just getting thrown into the fire like that. How was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. Yeah, Scotty in front of me, Rory behind me, playing with Shane Lowry. So it was really cool. Just, that first big experience of, having, all the crowds kind of moving around and learning how to deal with that. But I honestly played great that day. I think I had 15 pars in a row. Rinsed one in the water on 16, made a terrible double on finished, I think 4 over in my last 3. So it was tough, but was just kind of one of those days where I was playing really good and just couldn't get anything going, and maybe kind of pressed a little bit too much at the end. But I mean, honestly, learned a lot, from that day as well. And I think for my first time kind of being in that position, handled it pretty well overall. And sometimes that's just golf and how it goes, so.
Yeah. What specifically do you think you learned about yourself?
I think it's just, it sounds very cliche, but it's just, you don't have to be as perfect as you think you need to be, especially in those situations. And, but then at the same point, just playing with Shane and seeing how well he hit around that place and the level of golf that, those guys have in those moments is, something to aspire to for sure. And, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And, I remember him being kind of upset and watching his interview when we were coming out of scoring, and everybody wanted to talk about Rory. He's like, I'm trying to win the golf tournament too. And, just seeing that, level of that, the Masters is very unique because everybody's very happy to be there, but everybody wants to win that event more than anything, I think, too. So it was cool to be in that position. And, but it's been, I think, kind of walking off the course in Japan. Sunday was kind of the same thing of played my best round on tour so far, and bogeyed the last hole to shoot 60, could add 59, 58, whatever. And same thing at the Masters on Sunday, walked off, bogeyed 18 and finished 14th, and honestly felt like I missed the cut, missed T12 by 1, and would have gotten the automatic invite back. And it's I had a couple of those this year where honestly I felt like I played great events, and some of the best events of rounds or events of my career, and you walk off with a very disappointing feeling. It's kind of a very weird just a weird feeling to have of you should be very happy in that moment, but it feels like you just missed a cut or missed a huge opportunity. So it's tough, but it's it's part of the game too, for sure. It's kind of why golf's so challenging, but it's also the great part of, you get to tee it up again a week or two later and get back after it. So,
Matty, you got the Chicago golf hat on. I know you spent a decent amount of time up in Chicago. Are you ticking off golf courses as you visit areas early in the week at all? Or do you do that kind of Tom Watson style approach to trips and stuff?
Yeah, we'll do a little bit more probably this next year coming up. It was tough this year with just trying to, get used to the courses on tour, and there was enough to be had with a lot of that. But we did do some. We played Old Town at Wyndham on Tuesday, had a good week there. So I feel like sometimes it's good just to kind of, get out and just have a fun round. And, my caddy Doss his nickname now is America's Guest, and he's just trying to click off as many as he can. So he pushes me a lot for that. We did
Matt,
a few.
are you sure you don't want to go play this place? And you're like, we need a practice round, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely a little tougher to do some of that this year. But having a PGA Tour card, being able to call up some of these places a little easier than a Corn Ferry card. So, but no, very lucky to get out to a lot of these places and just experience, just being a fan of the game and kind of, course architecture as well as, I've played some of these places and just kind of, you learn a lot about, when these great golf courses, just playing them. And sometimes some of these tournament courses we play will seem a little bit more simpler and easier too at times, usually longer and more difficult than some of these old school, great golf courses. But at the same time, still golf, and it's nice just to kind of, not care about your score for a day and have fun with some buddies. So it's great.
Do you have a stop on the PGA Tour you're kind of, or a couple or whatever, you're itching to get back and get that second crack at, or an area even that you enjoyed?
Yeah, waste management for sure. I think just, that was my first kind of, huge event growing up there with all the people. I was playing with Wyndham and Akshay kind of in a big group those first 2 days. And I think I kind of, I'd played that place, 100 times. And I found myself on Thursday in 8 spots that I've never been on that golf course before, just off some terrible shots. And was like, what are we doing out here? And so another crack at that. And then honestly, the players, felt like I played really well out there and kind of know Sawgrass pretty well. Spent a decent amount of time in Jax. My girlfriend's family lives there. So, but I felt like kind of that Florida swing, fits my game really well, and kind of want another, crack at that. But honestly, there's a lot of places this year where I felt like I, could have played a little bit better. So just looking forward to kind of, having that year under my belt and, getting back after it, starting in January for sure. And, having a good week here, in Utah again, and trying to defend is something, I've never been able to do. Well, I guess it's been good that I haven't, had a chance to defend, the Corn Ferry and stuff, but it is something unique and something that's difficult to do out here, and, would be a cool, accolade for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the game's trending. I mean, I know you said you kind of put the clubs away for a few days, but I mean, even the rest and probably the step away from the game at times can be helpful for the mind. I mean, you got to be feeling relatively confident coming into a golf course you played so well last year.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, for me too, it's like, it's nice to kind of put the clubs away and just, have fun, enjoy, this life a little bit too. And, new experiences that, I wouldn't have had, without this game for sure. So like just being able to do that. And I think, I'm someone that, works really hard when I'm out there but I definitely need, some breaks here and there just to kind of, take a step back and, give myself kind of a mental break as much as physical too. So it is nice to, put the clubs away. And I feel like, my fourth year now out just, touring around playing. And I feel like it's less about like putting less emphasis on like kind of where my game's at any given day. And just, I talk a lot, with my coaches of like confidence shouldn't come from previous results. It just comes from acting that way, no matter what's happening. And, I think, having a few days off and, got here a little bit earlier, and I'll be fine by Thursday. So we'll be all good to go.
Okay. Rookie year as a whole, what were you most proud of yourself for and most disappointed in yourself for?
I think proud of just kind of my resiliency throughout the year. I felt like it was especially last year on Corn Ferry Tour, I just felt like I was kind of cruising, making a ton of cuts. Like it seemed really easy. And I think it was a little bit more up and down for me, especially like results wise this year. And, would have a couple off weeks but pick myself up and put myself back in a good spot. And, just kind of how I managed just the new experiences and everything that came along. Like honestly with, kind of talking about Augusta, like Saturday was perfect. Like I felt like I handled that day really well and just didn't, get what I should have gotten out of it, but yeah. And then, kind of disappointed with, how I played in, the rest of the majors after Augusta, feeling like I kind of, had a good opportunity there but earned my way into the British, which was awesome, or the Open, sorry.
There you go. Yeah, watch it now. They'll come after you.
Yeah. But no, just kind of, PGA in that week were a little disappointing how I finished on Friday. But yeah, I mean, just kind of wanted another crack at those. But, very motivating to be out here. And I think just, taking it all as a learning experience and just moving forward. I think I did great with that this year. So it was good.
Matt, I got a couple more for you. One is you were in Japan for a few days. You mentioned you went to a couple bars. They love karaoke in the bars. Did you sing any karaoke? And if you did, what'd you sing?
I did not.
Oh man,
what's your song? What's your song?
Yeah, what do you go to?
I don't have one. I'm not a huge karaoke guy. I'm terrible at that. I'll sing in the car by myself.
Most people aren't, but if you have 5 beers, you are.
Yeah. No, we actually didn't really hit like a true karaoke bar. But yeah. So next year. Yeah.
Next year, that'll be your spot. All right. My other question for you is, and I'm assuming you probably get this a decent amount when you're talking to young people, but you weren't the Bama kid or the Texas kid. I mean, you weren't. I don't believe you were. A extremely highly talented amateur kid. I mean, you had a good amateur career, but I mean, you weren't JT or Jordan Spieth or somebody like that. What do you tell young people out there that want to be a pro golfer, but maybe aren't seeing the results in AJGA tournaments, maybe aren't seeing the letters come in from, Arizona State or, Bama or Georgia Tech or Vanderbilt? What do you tell young people that want to get to your level, maybe want to follow in your path, but aren't kind of on the road that typically leads to PGA Tour success?
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of, just get that like 1% better every day and just stick with what you're doing and don't don't try to, I think even like this year for me, it was a big thing of like looking at all these guys that have had so much success and trying to do stuff that is out of your wheelhouse and trying to do too much sometimes. And I think that's kind of a big thing for me growing up is I just, I've had the same coach since I was 13, and he was great with me for that, of just, really just sticking to kind of, process everything and just keep working hard and stay patient with yourself and everything that'll come. And I think, in terms of like going to college is, it's really, tough, and you want to go to like these big schools and do all that. But at the same point, like, if you got an offer somewhere, that was the best advice I ever got, going to Santa Clara and going somewhere that I felt like I could play for 4 years. And I got so much better playing in every event. For COVID year, 5 years in college, than I would have, sitting on the bench at ASU for 2 years and then only having 2 years of, playing events or wherever that may have been, but I think just that experience of, and I think golf's unique in that sense of like, football and basketball are a little different. The big schools play a better schedule, but like, we were playing a lot of like Pac-12 events, rip Pac-12, at the time. And, but, there's a lot of opportunity, especially at like those mid-majors for golf. And honestly, like going up to Santa Clara in the Bay Area, we were able to play so many great golf courses, and just like, having that experience of, going around to great places in San Francisco, down in Monterey, and everything was, invaluable for me, especially a kid growing up in Arizona and not really knowing what true rough was, or, wind and cold a little bit. So it all works out. But yeah, just trust yourself and, stick with what you're doing and just stay patient more than anything.
Well, Matty, thanks for the time, man. Appreciate you downloading extra browsers and getting yourself dialed in. Hopefully the jet lag's not bad. Listen, we said it before we got going. Jet lag's been a success as of late in terms of the sports world, considering what the Rams just did in London. So hopefully that plays into your space as well. Go out there, play well. Hopefully you get another crack at 59 this year, because that was a hell of a scorecard.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys having me, and looking forward to the week at beautiful Black Desert.
Black Desert, baby. Matt McCarty, defending champion, taking a little bit of time on a Monday.